Okay, so we got a 99 Chevy Suburban here, and we're doing the water pump. So I've already pulled loose these 10 millimeter bolts, so I wanted to show you those. There's one there, one there, one there. There's two on the side and two on the side. One's by this hose. You're going to have to kind of wiggle it out of the way just a little bit, but it's easy to get at with an extension. So then you're going to pull that shroud up. That's the only part that I've done so far. So at this point now, we're going to want to take, well, most people want to take the serpentine belt off at this time because we're changing the water pump. Clearly it needs to come off. Don't do that. First thing you want to do is break loose those 10 millimeter bolts right there behind the fan. The reason is this vehicle has a clutch fan. You can hold this fan all you want, and that's not going to turn. If you turn that, holding the fan's not going to hold it. So we leave the belt on it, we break loose those bolts first. Trust me, you're going to save a lot of time. I know you want to dig right in and grab that tensioner and pull it down, release the serpentine belt, but if you do that, you got no way of holding that fan, unless you put some sort of a clamp or expensive tool on it. We don't have that. We're doing it to save money. So let's pull loose those 10 millimeter bolts for the fan first and leave it in place. Leave it there. And then at that point, we'll use a 13 millimeter on, not on the arm here, but on the back of this pulley here. And we're going to push that down. That will loosen up the serpentine belt. But let me show you a little trick. When you put your 13 on there, put it on the front pulley first. Let me see if you can see that. Put it on this pulley first and give it a snug. Tighten it up just a tiny bit. Not much. About that much. The reason that we do that is because that tensioner is springy. You pull it down, you got to use two hands. Sometimes you need three hands because you got to hold it down and you got to pull this belt off, and it's going to want to spring back up at you. But now watch this. We put it on the tensioner now, and we spring the tensioner down. I didn't tighten it enough. Let me do it just a hair more. Don't strip it. Just snug it up. Go back on the tensioner. Spring it down, and look how it holds for you, a piece of cake. Now you can just grab it and pull the belt right off. So that's going to be a heck of a lot easier. But at this point, we're not going to do that yet. I guess I should wait and show you that step in a second. But anyway, now you know. So let's pull off those 10 millimeters on our fan clutch pulley. Okay, so I had one bolt was just a little tight, and it didn't want to come loose. I got it loose, but I want to show you how I did, just in case you need this trick. So what I'm going to do, I hope you can see this. I'm using another wrench that's too big for the 10 millimeter. This is a 13 millimeter. And the flatter that you see how that bends to the left. The flatter the wrench, the better. But this one was able to get in there. I'm going to put it around the 10 millimeter, even though it doesn't fit it, and it just slips around it. And I'm going to pry it up against the next one. That way, when I bust loose that bolt over there, this has pressure on it, and I'm able to bust it loose. I can pull that up now, and the pulley will not spin on me. So I hope you understand that. You're just going to go around it like that, and it slips, and that's okay. And it locks. You can see it. It locks against the next one. So I can hold this one, and then I can put a 10 millimeter on that one and pull up. I can push to the right with this one and hold the pulley, and I can use the 10 millimeter to push to the left, up and counterclockwise, and take off the next bolt. And don't thread them all the way out. Only pull them out just a couple of turns to where they're loose, because you're going to have to rotate this and get the next one. And that way, if it's loose, you can still put this loose wrench on there and hold the next one. Even though that bolt turns, it will still hold it in place because you're just going around it. So I hope that little trick helps you out. So, all right, so now we're going to go ahead and take the serpentine belt off. Okay, so the other thing I want to show you real quick, I just noticed, well, if you already took off the serpentine belt and you did that first and then you started watching this video, you can still use that trick I showed you with the wrenches to hold the one and pull the other one without the belt on there. So, but I'm sure you figured that out. So we've tightened up our tensioner rod there, and we're going to go ahead and crank that down, and then we pull off the belt. You see how it got loose there. So everything just got all blurry. So we pull that off, take the belt off, and take it off the crank. Set the belt over there and hope it don't dry out in the sun before we get done. And now we're going to go ahead and pry that pulley back and we're gonna grab a big wrench, so I'll be right back. Okay, so got a pipe wrench here. If you got a wrench big enough, you can go on it, crescent wrench, pipe wrench, whatever. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna bust loose this bolt here. And I know I've seen a lot of times people just crimp it down, clamp it down. It's easy to fight with, and so that's why I take this pulley off first. I'm gonna show you why. So now we'll take one of the bolts that came out of the pulley, and we'll go in backwards. I hope you can see this. Let me grab this camera and get it back in there. We're going to go in backwards now. If you look behind where the bolt came through on the pulley right there, we're going to thread the bolt in backwards about 3 or 4 turns. And the reason we're going to do that is because then when this rotates, it's going to get hung up on the grooves of the pump right here. And so that's going to hold that for you so we can bust loose that nut. Don't fight with it. Don't put, you know, bars and shit in there. You're just going to break stuff. You don't want to break the pulleys. I've seen people throw crowbars and stuff way up here and put it on the air conditioning pump, and then they chip this, and you just don't want to do all that. Just stick the bolt in there. It'll hold it. It only needs to go in about 3 threads. So let me throw the bolt in there. So there you go. Now you can see I've just threaded the bolt in there just a little ways, maybe about 1/8 of an inch. And now when I rotate this, it gets stuck. It won't turn. It stops right there. So now I can put a wrench on that and I can bust loose that thing. And it's much simpler that way. Then if you need to, point your pipe wrench or your bar, or crescent wrench, whatever you're using, way up here, and then you can put a bar on it too if you need the extra leverage. Just put a pipe on it and extend it up, and she'll bust right loose for you. One little tap and then it screws out easy. So, all right, let's get that fan off there. Okay, so we got that loose. Now you can just spin out the fan. Even though it spins a little bit with the nut, it'll be loose enough to where you can get it off. So we can pull that off. We can pull our pulley off, and for now just go ahead and leave that bolt back there for now. Just let it stay there. You can take it off easier when you get the water pump out, or if you can get it, if you want to take it off now too, it doesn't matter, but just don't forget to take it off. Don't throw away your old water pump without doing that. So now we're going to take loose these the lower radiator hose here, the bypass hose here, and all of our bolts. And you'll have one other bypass hose coming up underneath the thermostat housing right there. Hope you can see that. And all those just come off with a pair of pliers. So we'll pull off all the hoses, then we can pull off the bolts. Okay, so we got the lower radiator hose off. We got the bypass hose off. Now that one that's underneath the thermostat housing, keep in mind you don't have to take it off the thermostat housing, just off the water pump, because we're only replacing the water pump. So that should be just about it, other than our bolts around the outside. Those are 14mm, so let's go ahead and start pulling those off. I like to use a deep socket and a few extensions to get out here where I don't bust my knuckles. So let's pull those off real quick. Okay, so all 4 bolts are out. And again, those are 14mm. And there's our no good water pump. These water pumps have 2 relief hose holes, and this is how you know that they leak. There's one right on the top right there. Wasn't nothing coming out of that one right there, the bottom one. And if you're not sure, because it's all dry when you take it off, you'll see that rust lick right there running down. Even when it's dry, you can see it right there. It was rusty. So, and sometimes it's not just rust, it's a greenish color too, because your antifreeze, orange, whatever kind you used. So that's it. Now we're going to assemble it backwards. I don't know if you'll need those instructions, but I'll go ahead and do them really quick as we go. So let me grab the new water pump that was just brought to me, and there's 2 gaskets on the back. Make sure you stick those on. You don't need any type of blue glue or anything for those gaskets, but I like to put just a little tiny bit on them so they stick in place and they don't move around. Then I put all 4 bolts in, then I set it up there and just finger tighten the 4 bolts. That way the gaskets don't move back and forth on me. It's not really used to help seal, it's just mainly just to hold it in place. So keep that in mind. You don't need a whole bunch on it, just a tiny bit. Okay, so again, we're just putting a little bit of this on there. We're not going to cake it on. It doesn't have to be on there a whole bunch, like I said. We're just enough to hold the gasket. So when you put the gaskets on, point them down. There you go. Because they fit a lot easier. You don't even have to have those other pieces. You can actually cut them too if you want, if they're not for your pump. But I don't know if you can see it's so dark. But I point them down because this is the top of the water pump. Now the other thing that you need to do, it's important, is to get up in here and you can see where the old gaskets were. They need cleaned with a razor blade, especially if you pull off the water pump as I did, and you see that that extra piece is not on there. That means it's on the block, so we need to clean it off. So we're just going to grab a regular razor blade here and just give it a good scraping. Okay, so I stuck those 4 bolts back in, put the pulley back on after the water pump was on, and of course that water line bottom radiator hose clamp, that went on. Bypass hose is on. Tightened this up the exact same way I took it off the fan, and it's good to go. So I think all I got left here is just put the shroud back on and we're good to go. Fill it up with some water and some new antifreeze. So I hope this helped you guys out, and I hope you attempt it, because I know a lot of people out there say you need those special tools and stuff, and you know, you don't always. You just need a few little tricks from old timers like the ones that taught me. So I hope it helped you out. Enjoy.